I noticed that you refer to other people as soul friends quite often. I'm very intrigued by this phrasing that you use. Is there a story behind that?
Funny you should ask. There is. About 3 years ago, I was experiencing neurobiological switches every few nanoseconds to every few minutes. At most, I was experiencing one state of consciousness for about 3 to 5 minutes, which means that your short-term memory and your long-term memory access completely adjust and they get wiped clean. And so in one moment, I didn't have access to the neural wiring and the brain abilities to know what was happening 5 seconds ago, 5 minutes ago, 5 days ago, 5 weeks ago, 5 months ago, 5 years ago, and it caused a lot of anxiety. And so I would get these messages from people online. They'd be like, hey, just wanted to check in on this one situation you were going through. And I would experience this full body panic. Full body just terror and anxiety because I couldn't remember this person, and the fact that this stranger on the internet knew about my personal life was terrifying because I didn't have neural access to know that they were a friend and I had shared this with them because I trusted them. I didn't have access to the neural data to tell me that. So constant interactions on a daily basis were very anxiety provoking. So after experiencing this for many, many months, I was like, okay, gotta do something about this. I can either succumb to the automated experiences provided by my neurobiology, or I can apply the power of my consciousness and create an energetic shift in how I'm experiencing my own reality. So I decided to refer to every human being as a soul friend, because then I could do a couple different things. One, everyone's a friend. Rather than my neurobiology assuming that everyone's a threat, which is often what can happen when you're experiencing an expansion of love, or aka trauma recovery. In those experiences, anyone and everyone can feel threatening. And so it kind of helped to deactivate those automated stress responses by just referring to anyone and everyone as a friend. Like, I don't remember this person, but I'm going to think of them as a friend because that makes my body feel safer in this moment. And that's really important to me right now, to my health and well-being, is to create a felt sense of safety and not feel attacked in every moment of existence and every slight interaction. And the other thing this did was help me shift to focusing on addressing the consciousness of other people. Because every human being is a divine consciousness flowing through a brain-body system, and our uniquely individualized styles of experiencing ourselves in life come from how consciousness is experiencing neurobiological activity. But if you take away the neural wiring, then everyone is just consciousness, and then we're all the same. We're all part of the same divine consciousness. And then there's no separation, and then there's nothing to fear because there's only love and unity. And so referring to other people as soul friends helped me shift my own neurobiological response to interacting with other people so that I could focus on connecting with the soul essence of pure divine consciousness in other people, connecting with my own consciousness and their consciousness to see beyond the neurobiological differences and the physical separations of reality, and connecting with anyone and everyone as a friend instead of being terrified that I couldn't remember anyone or anything moment to moment. And so when I'm connecting with people, I'm not connecting with the neurobiological activity. I'm connecting with the self-essence of pure divine consciousness, who is the true self within each person. And this approach breaks down walls and barriers of all kinds and creates unity within me and within all of my interactions.
I'm here today with Kristin Windsor, who just completed a 4-year case study after many, many years of implicit health challenges that were ineffectively addressed by medical professionals across multiple states. Thank you so much for taking time to be here, Kristin Windsor. It is an honor to connect with you.
Thank you so much for having me. It is such a blessed opportunity, such a divine privilege to be here and get to share my work. So thank you so much for having me and creating this space for me.
What did you learn during your case studies, or what were some conclusions that they led to?
Yeah, so my research led to several new discoveries, and it was a combination of learning about neuroscience, studying my experiences, and slowly drawing some new connections. And so the conclusions I came to were not things I directly learned from other sources. They were new things that I kind of figured out by piecing together my experience in relation to what I was learning from neuroscience. So my 16th discovery, thesis statement, or conclusion from my work is that individuals have the power to heal their own attachment systems by becoming hooked on themselves. What? Let's explore this a little bit. Attachments can only ever be healed from within. I can't heal someone else's attachment systems, and nobody else can heal my attachment systems. It is exclusively inner work. And so there might be abilities for therapeutic endeavors to help transform implicit memories. And there might be different styles of doctors or healing practitioners to help transform brain-body operations or, energetic flows or regulatory patterns, etc. But attachment systems can only ever be healed from within. The most effective way to heal attachment systems, I've discovered, is for the observational self to connect with the experiential self and play 3 distinct social engagement roles. The first is being the parent for the child. The adult self of immediate present day is there for the inner child. The second social engagement role, as the self connects with the self, or the conscious self connects with the subconscious self, or the observational self connects with the experiential self, is to be a best friend. The third social engagement role, as this conscious aspect of self connects with other aspects of self, is to play the role of a romantic partner. When the direct sense of the observational I connects with all other aspects of the self within and beyond awareness, when the observational me connects with the experiential me and plays 3 distinct roles of nurturing the inner child, being a best friend, and being the emotionally and physically intimate romantic partner, then attachments completely heal in a very profound way. And attachment systems affect brain-body operations, the well-being of implicit neural wiring, mind-body connectivity, and so many different aspects of our implicit health. And so healing our attachment systems really transforms life experience from the inside out. When we move through our days, connecting with our inner experiencer and being there for our inner child and being there as our own best friend and being there as a romantic lifelong partner for ourselves, we heal the energies that are at the foundation of our unconscious body-mind in a very profound way. We liberate our consciousness, we rewire our brain-body systems, and we transform our own automated styles of personal life experience from the inside out. And it's wonderful
Because attachment systems can only be healed from within, it means that we each possess infinite power to transform our own life experiences from the inside out through loving presence. Opportunities to practice healing internal attachment systems are literally infinite, and you can be really playful with this process. So there's 3 roles, right? 3 social engagement roles that the observational self is stepping into for the experiential self. One is playing the role of the romantic partner or emotional and physical intimacy. And this could look like waking up in the morning and looking into a mirror and being like, hi, I'm so glad I get to wake up next to you, sweetheart. How did you sleep? Did you sleep really well? Oh, I'm really glad to hear that. You know, I really appreciate just getting to be alive with you. I just love you for all that you do and for all that you are. And I think you're just fantastic. And I'm really lucky just to be here in your presence. Like, oh my goodness, babe, you're out of my league. How am I so lucky to wake up next to you? You're amazing. And as silly as it may feel at first, these types of practices have so much power because they're addressing neurobiological needs of the unconscious body mind. It's very specific. Like, you're not just playing some silly role, you're playing this role that the neurobiological social engagement system needs to optimally thrive. But most of the time, people rely on other people to fill these roles and to meet these needs. And that's why implicit health suffers unnecessarily across the globe. But when we can get creative and play these roles for ourselves in whatever way that looks like for us, meeting ourselves where we're at with what we're comfortable with, what we feel is appropriate for our personal healing journey, where we're at, we can have a lot more power within our health because we're meeting these needs that are just innate to the human experience, but they're not dependent on external circumstances or other people. And when we have greater implicit health, then all avenues of life improve. Our connectivity and communication and connection with other people improves when we are meeting our attachment needs for ourselves. So even if there's 2 people who are life partners, if this person treats themselves like a life partner and this person treats themselves like a life partner, then this life partnership is going to be so much better in every single way. Intimacy will improve, connection will improve, communication will improve. Everything will get better when this person is their own life partner and this person is their own life partner. And then from that space of self-love, then they love each other. Everything will improve on every level because the neurobiological applications of consciousness are operating from a space of greater health and well-being. And the second role is playing a best friend. And so that might look like going to work and imagining that you're working with your best friend or you're observing your best friend at their place of work. Then it's not just I'm here and I'm working and I have to work. It's I'm here and I'm with my best friend and I get to hang out with this incredible human being while they express their amazing talents and contribute to the world. This is awesome. Just that very simple, energetic shift can amplify everything from internal health to external experience. The third role is playing a parent to our inner child, and that might look like taking care of needs. Like when you go and get lunch, it's not, I'm going to get myself some lunch. It's, hey, inner child, I want to make sure that you feel seen and loved and taken care of and supported today. I respect you so much and I just want to make sure that you get all the nutrients you need to really make sure you can thrive because you deserve to thrive. And then you go to get lunch for your inner child. And in this process, It's only an internal energetic shift of focus. That's all that's happening. What you're actually physically doing does not change. It's only an internal shift of energetic focus through intention and attention. That's where our power is. When you do this, everything changes from the inside out. You're still going through the same movements through life, but you're going through it from a different space of internal energy. The energetic focus of your inner being has shifted towards a deeper sense of loving presence, and this miraculous level of self-attunement helps to heal everything. I'm talking everything. Neural data from decades ago can heal through this regular practice.
Nurturing the inner child goes both ways. Sometimes you might be the caregiver nurturing the inner child, and the observational self connects with the experiential self through that type of energetic role. And other times you might be creating space for the inner child to come out and play. So you might be parent-child bonding from the perspective of the caregiver or the parent, where you're nurturing your inner experiencer as if your inner experiencer were the child and your observational self were the parent. And then other times it might be connecting with parent-child bonding from the perspective of the child, where you're emphasizing creating space for your inner child to come out and express and feel bliss and creativity and joy and laughter and lighthearted play. For example, playing at a playground or swinging at a park and just allowing yourself to lightheartedly giggle could be a moment of allowing your inner child to come out and experience the world. So nurturing the inner child goes both ways. You might be the adult connecting with your inner child, and you might be the observational self observing the experiential self as the inner child who's out for time of freedomist joy and self-expression. The potentials for this healing process are literally infinite. While exercising, you could be hanging out with your best friend. While eating dinner, you might be having a romantic date with your life partner, who is yourself. While showering, you might be washing the hair of your life partner and connecting with yourself through loving presence in that way. When you're getting ready for bed, you might be helping your inner child get ready for bed. During mirror meditations, you might be looking at your life partner, or your amazing best friend, or your perfect inner child hiding in an adult's body. The self who is observing becomes your observational self, who is energetically distinct from the experiential self, who is the person you're seeing looking back at you in the mirror. And creating this space expands personal power along any type of healing journey through life, especially when striving to revolutionize the well-being of attachment systems residing at the core of the unconscious body-mind. And I share a unique style of mirror meditations that allows you to connect with all three roles, your life partner, your best friend, and your inner child, simultaneously through a mirror meditation. So stay tuned for that magic as a bonus feature in Thesis Statement number 22. Just shifting the energetic focus of loving presence by playing these three roles from the observational self to the experiential self helps transform the energetic well-being of attachment systems that subsequently impacts the well-being of memory data from our entire lives that's unconsciously providing navigation for self and life. So, it's really important how we understand our sense of self and understandings of reality in current and potential moments comes from this neural data. So it's really important, and we might not instinctively realize it, and that's why this awareness is so significant. And then the well-being of attachments being amplified then amplifies the health of the brain-body system. Our body can breathe better, circulate blood better, digest food better. Everything works better in our unconsciousness when the well-being of attachment systems are specifically addressed from a space of personal power and loving presence. One of the most important aspects about healing our attachment systems from within is allowing our inner experiencer to know that they matter more than the experience. This is huge. While moving through life, it's really easy to focus on the experience. It's this very obvious reality here that's here and now, and it seems like it's what matters. So it's very, very instinctive to prioritize the experience. But we can produce very profound depths of healing by helping our parts of consciousness know that them within experience is what matters. It's very subtle, but very, very powerful to shift the energetic focus of our inner reality in this way. When we step into these 3 social engagement roles to help heal our attachment systems, we create space to help our inner experiencer know that they matter more than the experience, that our parts of consciousness or our self-essence within experience is the top priority. From that space, all of life flows very, very well, from internal health to external experience. If you'd like to dive deeper into exploring these topics, please feel free to check out my book, Liberated Consciousness. My 17th thesis explores implicit memories. Specifically, my 17th thesis statement is that sudden, strong, or persistent or consistent sensations create new implicit emotional memory data, and brand new implicit procedural memories are created through repetition, but specifically 2 hours of one continued experience has the power to create a brand new body memory. So I'd like to explore this. So basically, for 3 years, I could only create new implicit memories. I couldn't create explicit memories. And as terrifying and challenging as this was, it presented a radically revolutionary opportunity to explore what implicit memories really are and how they function and how they operate and how they're generated and how they ignite and contribute to conversations of consciousness and what impacts them and how their sculpting impacts unfoldings of experience. And so I had this really profound opportunity to explore implicit memories from a brand new angle. And what I was discovering was like this really miraculous combination of things, because it wasn't just the research and it wasn't just experience. It was this really profound space of combining research and experience to gain new knowledge and greater depths of understanding on this really important topic that affects all of humanity in every moment of every day. So the first thing I started to notice was that I could remember individual sensations of moments when they held sudden, strong, or consistent sensations, because that held power to generate a new implicit emotional memory, one of the only types of memories I was able to create. So while moving through life, for example, you might be able to remember, yesterday I woke up, I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this, and then I went to bed. I couldn't remember that kind of stuff. That's explicit autobiographical information. And for 3 years, my brain was not allowing for the generation of that memory data within my brain-body systems. So I couldn't get to that. There was no continuity between days or even moments. I would be in a moment and I would have no idea who I was or where I was or what I was doing 5 seconds or 5 minutes ago, much less 5 hours or 5 days ago. There was no continuity between unfolding moments, and there was no continuity between days. I was experiencing switches every few nanoseconds to every few minutes, which means that if all this neural data, right, and all these different regions of neural data weren't connecting in my brain and my body. And so I would go from here to here every few nanoseconds or milliseconds. At most, it would be like 5 minutes where I could stay in one region of neural data
and experience one fluid sense of personal experience at a time. And then it would just switch, and I would suddenly have a brand new train of thought, a brand new sensation of who I was, a brand new feelings, a brand new self-orientation, because the neural data ignitions were suddenly changing and these regions didn't have connectivity. My whole reality was constantly adjusting itself unconsciously. So moments and days held no continuity.
So even though I couldn't remember explicit autobiographical information in any capacity, I was able to remember specific sensations. And so if there was a moment where I was suddenly startled, or if there was a moment of surprise or shock, then that moment would generate an experiential element that was effectively able to be energetically transmuted into a piece of processed implicit emotional memory data. And I could remember that moment of that sensation, but I could not remember any of the explicit autobiographical details. For example, I was not a self within an experience in a place where this thing happened. I was just a sensation of surprise. No self, no environment, no particulars, just one abstract sensation. And it took me quite a while to figure this out, but eventually I realized that this was the generation of implicit emotional memory data. And so even though I couldn't get to the traditional explicit memory details, my brain and my body simply were not processing and generating that information for 3 years. I was able to effectively generate implicit emotional memory data. Once I figured this out, I explored it further. I wanted to remember moments really intensely. Memories are very imperative to our sense of sanity. Without access to processed memories, we cannot get to a solidified sense of self or a persistently consistent solidification of reality. Memory data is what enables those events to unconsciously transpire throughout our neurophysiological applications of consciousness. Lacking that access to processed memory data reduces abilities for experiencing the gift of sanity. So once I played with this, it's like, okay, so how can I stimulate the generation of new implicit emotional memories? Because I can remember moments if there's strong, sudden, or consistent emotional sensations or feelings-based sensations. And so that became a part of my daily practices, was striving to stimulate sudden, strong, or consistent sensations. And this was where I discovered that fulfilling attachment needs, especially by generating the emotional sensations of having these specific needs met, a feeling of being loved, a feeling of being seen, a feeling of feeling safe, a feeling of being supported, a feeling of embrace and respect. When emotional sensations are stimulated in relation to attachment needs, they have the power to stimulate implicit emotional memory data that holds the potential to not only amplify the well-being of neural connectivity in the new moments, but actually holds the potential to transform past implicit data, because that data is being activated in every moment and every activation rewires it. So part of my 17th thesis statement is that sudden, strong, or consistent sensations produce new implicit emotional memory data within our unconscious body-mind. The next part of this explores implicit procedural memories, and this is where stuff gets extra juicy. The entire way that humankind knows how to move through moments stems directly from this implicit data. But it's happening so unconsciously that the conscious mind could never possibly understand these occurrences. Implicit procedural memories hold various types of action patterns or innate movement programs. And these are everything from learned motor skills, like knowing how to play a guitar, to action patterns, including approach avoidance tendencies and survival responses.
Because my days and my moments held no continuity whatsoever, there were many, many challenges in just navigating everyday life. So something I ended up doing after playing around with potentials, combining my neuroscience research with observations from experience, was cultivate 5 daily rituals, each one lasting several hours. I basically was able to teach my body what time of day it was because of the ritual I was doing. Okay, so when you're moving through moments, your body kind of has this innate understanding that it's morning time. I am just waking up. It is the beginning of the day. I just had sleep. Yesterday, there was a day. That day ended. Then I went to bed, and now I am awake. And then when it's later in the day, your body has an innate instinctive understanding of the day's about halfway done. I'm about to have lunch. It's that time of day where I get food in my body again. Your body kind of has this clock inside of it, and it unconsciously provides navigation through unfolding moments. It's very, very unconscious. You don't necessarily have thoughts in your mind about this information, but the body understanding its orientation in time and space provides various cues from feelings of like hunger, for example, or sensations related to energy, different kinds of unconscious messages. And all of that is made possible through this kind of unconscious body clock of self-orientation, basically. And I wasn't able to access that for 3 years. And so my body didn't know the difference between daytime and nighttime. My body didn't understand the difference between morning and evening. My body didn't understand the unfoldings of moments. And so when there was a moment, it was either a moment that was a collage of every moment that had ever existed and the moment never ended, or it was a moment where absolutely nothing existed. And it was very unique experiences of dissociation because my body was surviving incomprehensibly severe traumatic stress and coping in a very miraculous evolutionary way. And so I developed these different strategies to move through these experiences. One of them was using the sun as like a dial and recognizing where it was in the sky and teaching my body to understand the passage of time by bearing witness to the sun moving across the sky throughout the day. And that really helped relieve anxiety because my body could start to understand these things that it needed to understand but couldn't get to, basically. So one thing I did was created these 5 daily rituals. I had one for the morning, one for noontime, one for afternoon, one for evening, and then one for before bed. And each one lasted 2 hours or longer. They were always a minimum of 2 hours. And I started to notice this because it wasn't intentional. I just said, about this time of day, this is where I go to. And then whenever I'm done moving through this routine, and I'm ready to move to the next part of the day, I go to this ritual. And after many, many months, I began to notice this really fascinating cycle. My body got to a space where it was ready to go to the next part of the day after 2 hours. It was always 2 hours. And it was fascinating to witness this because there was no clock. I had no orientation in time and space. I couldn't understand what year it was or who I was or what age I was or where I existed in relationship to furniture or buildings or trees or anything. There was literally zero orientation in time and space because of how severe the dissociation was. And the miraculous part about this, though, is that I started to witness this amazing unfolding where at exactly 2 hours, something clicked in my body that gave me this miraculous permission to continue. Exploring this further and diving deeper into my case study research, where I was literally researching neuroscience and different angles of it for hundreds of hours, pouring through every resource online and in books and all kinds of stuff from text to videos, everything. And then I was spending hundreds, if not thousands of hours writing and recording notes about what I was noticing, and then many more hours going back and reviewing all of these notes and then seeing what I could find when I was connecting the dots. Eventually I got to a space where I said, what I'm noticing is connecting with memory data. Everything was leading back to implicit memories. So it's like, what's causing my body to feel this miraculous sense of relaxation and permission to move through to the next moment of experience right when I reached 2 hours? And sometimes it was longer. At first, for many months, it was actually more like 6 to 8 hours. But then after I got past a few months of the intensity, then it was persistently 2 to 3 hours that I spent in each of these 5 rituals. And right when I got to that time, something miraculous in my unconsciousness seemed to transition, kind of like the way the body clock would naturally transition, where it notices these different unfoldings. I wake up, I eat food, I work, I do this, I eat, I exercise, I do this, I wind down, I go to bed. The way that the body would naturally kind of move through each of these moments and have these unconscious, sensational, energetic cues to kind of continue to the next piece of unfoldings and happening very unconsciously, very instinctive, very innate. Exploring my case studies further, I began to theorize that at 2 hours of doing one consistent thing, 2 hours in one repeated experience, especially engaging the body in it, like chanting or hugging a tree or doing something very specific where I was in one location, practicing one type of presence and engaging in this one task where I'm in this one singular sense of experience. You know, my body's in one space, in one kind of physical posture, with one kind of energetic focus. 2 hours seemed to be the marker where there was a new implicit procedural memory being created. There are 2 categories of implicit procedural memories: learned motor skills and innate movement programs or action patterns. Within innate movement programs or action patterns, there's approach avoidance tendencies and survival responses. How is this implicit procedural memory data created? How does this aspect of neural wiring come into existence? One example of a learned motor skill is learning to ride a bicycle or learning to play an instrument. You move your body in a certain way over and over and over again, consciously repeating certain styles of unconscious bodily movement. You're riding a bike, your hands are on the handlebars, you're learning to balance, you're learning to pedal, you're learning to orient in time and space quicker than if you're walking because you're moving this bicycle, right? So there's all these different elements of bodily engagement, and you consciously practice that style of unconscious bodily movement again and again and again until it becomes instinctive or automatic. Similar with learning an instrument. You're playing the violin or you're playing the guitar, whatever it might be, you're holding an instrument with your body in a certain way, and you're moving your fingers, for example, in a certain way. If you're playing the violin, you've got these fingers up here and this is doing the bow, and if you're playing guitar, this one's strumming and here you got different kinds of chords and stuff going on, or maybe you're finger picking. Okay, so you've got an instrument and then you're moving your body in a very specific way, and you consciously practice moving your unconscious body in a certain way over and over and over again until it becomes something you can get to very quickly, and you don't have to consciously say, okay, this finger goes here, this one goes here, this goes here, that's a G chord, and then I strum, 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 strum. And there's all this conscious effort, but then eventually it's da 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 da, and you just do it automatically, okay? And that's because consciousness gradually, intentionally created new implicit procedural memory data of a learned motor skill. And once that data was created through repetition, then that wiring allowed consciousness to engage those neurobiological programs, or that wiring of neural data, and it became an automatic ability.
Okay, but the automatic ability came down the road from all of this repetitious practice where the conscious self moved the unconscious body in a certain way. So that's how learned motor skills can be created within implicit procedural memory data. But how are innate movement programs or approach avoidance tendencies created within implicit procedural memory wiring? That data is much more abstract than a learned motor skill. You don't consciously tell your unconscious body to move in a certain way and it creates data. That's not necessarily the process of this. It's actually much more unconscious, automatic, and energetically abstract. And it actually has to do with the well-being of attachment systems through automated interpretations of experiential elements. When there are moments of attachment need fulfillment, for example, then whatever elements are gathered in those moments come in and get housed within implicit procedural memory wiring and create an approach tendency towards that thing. For example, let's say you went to theme parks a lot as a child and you loved being at these theme parks, and every single time you went, it was a positive experience. Every time you went to these theme parks and rode roller coasters or whatever they had, you felt loved and you felt celebrated and seen, and you felt safe and secure, protected and provided for. You felt supported and connected, and a sense of closeness and community with yourself or whoever you were with, and you felt respected and embraced, and like there was an opportunity to freely be yourself every time you went to a theme park. Then throughout life, there's going to be a natural inclination to want to go to theme parks and to have an instinctive ability to personally enjoy them. However, if you went to theme parks as a child and every single time you went, something happened where you didn't feel safe and you didn't feel seen and you didn't feel supported and you didn't feel respected. Like maybe you're in line and someone spits on you and you go on this roller coaster and the thing's not strapped in tightly, and the whole time you're on the ride you feel like you're gonna fall and die. And there's all these things that happen. So every time you go to a theme park, something comes up and there's an attachment need that's not fulfilled. Then throughout your life, you're not going to have much of a desire to go to theme parks, because implicit procedural memory data carries an avoidance tendencies in relationship to that type of vibrational signal or experiential element. So experiential elements are processed and stored in relation to attachment well-being. When there's fulfillment of attachment needs, then the unconscious body-mind decides that approaching that thing helps meet attachment needs. And you'll experience a natural inclination to want to move towards that. So remember, implicit procedural memory data affects decision-making tendencies, unconsciously dictating at least 80% of how we move through moments and have those moment-by-moment decision-making processes. Moments of severely unmet internal attachment needs can stimulate survival responses within innate movement programs of implicit procedural memory wirings. This can affect different types of muscle tension patterns or unconscious regulation, such as autonomic dysregulation. There can be a lot of different things unconsciously impacted by this. So you've got this kind of conceptualization of different types of memories. Okay, there's explicit and implicit. Implicit are all unconscious. Within implicit memories, you have emotional memories and procedural memories. Within procedural memories, you have learned motor skills, approach avoidance tendencies, and survival responses. The survival responses and approach avoidance tendencies create a category that can be described as innate movement programs or action patterns. This memory data is most likely to hold pain from past experiences. Learning how to rewire implicit procedural memory data carrying innate movement programs or action patterns holds so many healing potentials to transform any type of implicit battle. Whether it's a type of automated style of decision-making tendencies or an automated style of bodily response like muscle tension patterns or nervous system dysregulation, learning to rewire implicit procedural memory data carrying action patterns or innate movement programs holds the most powerful healing potentials imaginable. This led me to create something called implicit transformation. It's a multi-step process for self-healing. And I wrote a book draft about this, and one day I'll publish it, so stay tuned for that magic. Implicit transformation was a self-healing process that I created that was the foundation of my healing journey. During my case studies in self-healing, I found that 2 hours in a prolonged experience of loving presence where you are alone, not with other people, and that's really important, and it has to do with the wiring of attachment well-being, because once you're around other people, the unconscious body-mind believes that attachment well-being should come from that, and it kind of messes with this process a little bit. So when a person spends 2 hours alone in a singular experience of loving presence, where they're lovingly connecting with their experiential self, and they're in grounded presence in their body in the present moment, this stimulates new implicit procedural memory data that radically revolutionizes health within the unconscious body-mind. When you're in a singular moment for a minimum of 2 hours, you're lovingly connecting with yourself, you're grounded in the present moment, and you're fulfilling your own attachment needs through self-love, and you're just you here and now in love, and you're you here and now in love, and you're you here and now in loving presence. That creates new implicit procedural memory data, and that can gradually transform past data because every nanosecond activates that data, and every activation automatically rewires it. So creating new implicit procedural memories transforms the way the unconscious body-mind flows and regulates and knows how to move through unfolding moments, and creates new opportunities to have improved abilities to make decisions in everyday life, and simultaneously it can gradually help rewire past data that may be disrupting unconscious navigation within identity or experience. Because the unconscious body-mind does learn through repetition, repeating these experiences of loving presence for 2 hours or longer, where you're doing one thing connected with yourself with a profound level of loving presence, can gradually cultivate change in the entire unconscious body-mind. You're literally retraining your body how to understand and navigate its own existence. It is so profound and so dynamically, divinely powerful. Another way to perceive this process is that you're teaching your unconscious body-mind to approach its own loving presence and to avoid anything that would disrupt loving presence. When we automatically move through our life, a lot of times our minds will be other places, and our minds are busy doing this other stuff. We're not necessarily fully present with our body, or our body won't be fully grounded in the moment, or we won't be fully connected with our own experiential self or inner aspects of who we are. And that has to do with the way that neural data is navigating life unconsciously. So when we transform implicit procedural memory data, we're gradually reprogramming our body to approach its own presence and our consciousness to approach its own love. It's very, very extraordinary to experience. Because this neural wiring of implicit procedural memories affects all of humankind on the deepest level imaginable, in every nanosecond of every day, but completely unconsciously, it's important to expand awareness on these topics so that every person has so much more power to navigate their unfolding storybooks of life. When we can improve the content
and the connectivity of our neural wiring. Consciousness has more power to move through life in a way that allows optimal thrival and not just survival. Humankind as a collective consciousness can evolve to new heights of thrival and greater expanses of beingness when we learn how to transmute this energetic data hiding within the greatest depths of our unconscious body-mind. When automated styles of decision-making tendencies and abilities stem from a place of loving presence because of how fulfilled attachment needs enable positive content and integrative connectivity throughout neural data, humankind will experience a greater depth of the kindness that is at the core of humankind. I began to discover that implicit procedural memories or unconscious body memories were at the core of a lot of my health challenges. And when I created a new implicit procedural memory or a new body memory, it held the power to transmute past body memories, creating implicit health challenges. So I couldn't create new explicit conscious memories, but I could create new implicit body memories. Another part of this was realizing that even though my mind could not get to any piece of what was happening, my body was recording every single moment of my life. And this continues to be a profound piece of knowledge because our minds are going to forget what we did, like today, for example. Like a week from now, I'm not going to remember the details of what I did today. A month from now, I'm not going to remember the details of what I did today. A year from now, I'm definitely not going to remember the details of what I did today. But even 10 years down the line, my body is going to remember how I moved through every moment of today. So even though the mind doesn't remember the explicit details, the body always, 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 always remembers every single implicit detail. And so, for example, you're tying your shoes. Your mind is not going to remember, I tied my shoes yesterday. It's not going to be something worth keeping in that explicit catalog of neural data. It's not something that's going to stick in the explicit autobiographical particulars of information accessible through the conscious mind. But the body will remember the energetic engagement of that activity. If you tie your shoes feeling rushed and feeling frantic and feeling hurried, your body will remember that energy and it will store it and it will keep it and it will use it to navigate future moments. If you tie your shoes very slowly, with mindful presence, with a gentle smile, and with peace in your heart, your body will remember that energetic information and use that information to navigate unfolding moments. And so these moments are generating implicit emotional memory data based on the sensations we feel within the unconscious body mind. And every moment's generating a new implicit procedural memory data based on how our body is moving through unfolding moments. Keeping this in mind provides infinite power along any type of healing journey through life. While driving, for example, if we're feeling rushed and frantic, we are teaching our body to feel rushed and frantic. If we breathe deeply and relax into our experience, we are teaching our body to breathe deeply and relax into experiences in the future. Because memories are how we navigate our moments. Every moment generates new implicit memory data, and every moment is activating that implicit memory data. Not all moments create explicit autobiographical memories, and not all moments are using explicit memories to navigate unfoldings, but implicit memories are always impacting us. So no matter what's happening, if we can prioritize the implicit energetic sensation through which we move through moments, we are reclaiming power within our implicit health. We are teaching our unconscious body mind how to navigate future moments by being present in this moment. Loving presence here transforms implicit health. So our body has new movement programs, new action patterns to more effectively navigate the moments that haven't even come yet.
The second piece of my 17th thesis statement is that 2 hours or more of one prolonged personal experience of grounded presence through profound mindfulness and loving self-connection, where you're alone and fulfilling attachment needs for parts of consciousness through self-love. This process stimulates new implicit procedural memory data, specifically innate movement programs or action patterns that unconsciously impact decision-making tendencies and abilities, unconscious brain-body regulation, and other elements of personal experience from behind the scenes of neurobiological activity. This intentional rewiring of implicit procedural memory data gradually transforms disintegrated procedural memories that were created during past moments of unfulfilled attachment needs, and can gradually improve the power of consciousness to navigate through moments, as the unconscious body mind is automatically directed towards loving presence because of high vibrational implicit procedural memory data carrying approach avoidance tendencies and survival responses, or action patterns and innate movement programs. Another fascinating aspect of what I learned about implicit procedural memories is the type of movement programs or action patterns they hold. From my research, I learned about how these memories hold different types of learned motor skills, allowing for things like playing guitar, for example, and different types of action patterns, enabling styles of approach and avoidance and survival responses in the body. And this affects the way that we move through moments and make decisions and all kinds of fascinating stuff. And we learned a lot about how these implicit memories affected external engagements. Like when you choose a snack from the cupboard, for example, you think you're in the moment choosing a snack in a brand new experience and you're fully conscious and everything you're doing in the moment is what you're choosing there. But most of that choice comes from this implicit procedural memory data beyond awareness. Through my case study research, I pieced some things together and began to realize that implicit procedural memories don't just hold action patterns affecting external movement. They also hold action patterns involving internal regulation, the way that my brainwaves know how to move. The style of brainwave regulation I instinctively experience directly stems from implicit procedural memories in relation to attachment needs. I talked a bit about this in my third thesis statement about how implicit memories in relation to attachment well-being affect brain-body operations. These implicit procedural memories, these body memories, weren't just holding action patterns about how to move through moments. They were holding action patterns teaching every aspect of my brain and body how to regulate and instinctively operate. So in the process of creating new implicit body memories with specified intentionality, I was simultaneously reprogramming my autonomic nervous system, my brain waves, a variety of internal activity stemming from a space of extraordinary unconsciousness. Like, you can't go in and just be like, hey, heart, can you beat a little slower? Hey, brainwaves, can you be a little more regulated? Like, you can't get there. You can't just go there consciously. And so the process of creating new implicit body memories, these implicit procedural memories, the deepest, most unconscious type of memory data, this process of creating them intentionally was a way to directly reprogram integrative patterns of my brain and regulatory protocols of my body. So I couldn't get to explicit autobiographical information, but I could reprogram the implicit neural data, completely dictating how my body knew how to move through unfolding moments. It was fascinating to explore implicit body memories from this unique perspective, where it was one of the only types of memories I could create. I discovered the power of repeating moments. When I found a beautiful moment, and I continually stepped into that moment and stepped out of it and stepped back in and stepped out of it and stepped back in and kept repeating the exact same moment, I was able to create a new memory where I wasn't normally able to create any kinds of memories. I share play prompts like this in my Healing into Happiness playbook. You can explore this and other self-guided at-home healing journey programs on my website at KristinWindsor.com, where I have my business of Kristin's Consciousness Consultancy. Long story short, my 17th thesis is that A, sudden, strong, or consistent emotions or sensations or feelings stimulate new implicit emotional memories unconsciously, and B, 2 hours or more of one type of personal experience unconsciously generates new implicit procedural memory data, especially an innate movement program. Applying this insight and having 2 hours or more of one type of personal experience that prioritizes loving presence, where you're grounded in the present moment in your body, lovingly connected with yourself, and fulfilling your own attachment needs through self-love without engagement with other people, this creates new implicit procedural memory data that can empower health within the greatest depths of the unconscious body-mind. When this practice stimulates powerful sensations of loving connection and fulfilled attachment needs, this practice can also stimulate the generation of new implicit emotional memories. And not only does this create new memory data, but it also gradually rewires past entail, because every nanosecond activates it, and with each ignition, that neural wiring is automatically reconstructed. The well-being of implicit memories are infinitely important because every nanosecond creates new implicit memory data, and every nanosecond uses memory and every nanosecond uses implicit memory data to navigate the unfoldings of personal realities. I look forward to sharing more about these insights in a book I've written called Implicit Transformation that will be published one day after Liberated Consciousness has been published and released. My 18th thesis statement is that mental health care may provide accurate diagnoses and effective healing potentials or treatments by assessing 7 particulars upon initial client intake: brain hemispheric balance, mind-body connectivity, brainwave regulation, regulation of all nervous systems, central, autonomic, enteric, somatic, cranial nerve functionality, the well-being of implicit memory data providing unconscious navigation regarding self and life, and the well-being of attachment systems in relation to the fulfillment of specific needs in present and past experiences. Assessing these 7 particulars enables healing practitioners to directly identify what's happening to provoke implicit battles. And then there may be accurate diagnoses
and effective healing modalities, where every person knows exactly what's causing their experience and exactly how to heal it. I am so grateful for the mental health care system. It is absolutely beautiful that humankind has evolved to a space of recognizing that mental health is something that exists. Implicit health is something that exists. The way that we experience our thoughts and our feelings and our relational connectivity with ourselves and other people and action patterns or types of behaviors, these are all aspects of our health that matter. And it's beautiful that humankind is at an evolutionary point of acknowledging these implicit realities. Once upon a time, this wasn't acknowledged. It wasn't respectfully attuned with. So I'm very thankful that humankind has evolved to this space. But here's the part about human evolution. It doesn't stop. It keeps going. We are now at a point in our human expansion that we are ready to evolve to the next level. Even just in the past decade or two, neuroscience has produced profound breakthroughs, and this information ignites a brand new transformation into greater implicit health. The mental health care system is at a point of revolutionarily evolving. The evolution revolution, where it understands the neuroscience of the unconscious mind and is effectively able to describe and provide healing potentials for any and every type of battle. Here's the cold, hard truth. I was able to discover the neuroscience of every battle I was experiencing and produce complete healing resolution of dozens of implicit challenges in just 3 years, even while experiencing constant and severe dissociation. Right now, there is a global healthcare system with billions of dollars flowing through it. And I know for a fact that if I can evolve to the healing potentials I have achieved, then the healthcare system can too. There is absolutely no reason that mental health care cannot provide accurate diagnoses and effective healing potentials for any and every type of struggle. I'm very grateful that the mental health care exists now as it does. It was an absolutely necessary stepping stone in our human evolution. But we are now at a point where we're ready to continue evolving. The mental health care system as we know it will not exist a few years from now, because neuroscience is revolutionizing understandings of the unconscious mind and body. And when we understand where experience comes from, then we can understand what creates unique experiences like dissociation, psychosis, hearing voices, having obsessions or compulsions, and dozens of other health challenges experienced across the globe. Once we understand where experience comes from, then we can understand what disrupts these experiences. Once we identify the neuroscience of these disruptive experiences, then we can create effective healing potentials, allowing consciousness to be liberated into the fullness of all it is, while the brain-body system is restored to a greater health than it has ever known. By assessing these 7 specific points of brain hemispheric balance, mind-body connectivity, regulatory state of brainwave activity, regulation of all nervous systems, cranial nerve functionality, and the health and well-being of implicit memories and attachment systems, then new types of questions can be asked, leading to new types of answers, which create new healing potentials to produce effective results. Instead of simply trying to reduce symptoms, new questions can be asked. How do we improve this person's brain hemispheric balance? How can we increase prefrontal cortex engagement? How can we increase oxygen and blood flow throughout the brain and the body? How can we amplify instinctive abilities for brainwave regulation? How can we encourage connectivity and regulation throughout the nervous systems? How can we encourage neural connectivity so implicit memories and attachment systems experience greater well-being, providing prosperous unconscious navigation regarding identity and personal experience? By asking brand new questions, new healing potentials ignite, profoundly expanding the opportunity to achieve the healing results that are so deeply desired. Healing is always possible, but it's really about pinpointing what actually needs to be healed and how to go about doing that. And until these neurobiological applications of consciousness are addressed in relation to mental health, challenges will continue to feel impossible, or like there's no hope to actually heal them. From my case study explorations, my 18th thesis statement is that addressing 7 particulars within neurobiological applications of consciousness empowers accurate diagnosing and effective healing modalities for all types of implicit health challenges, including mental health battles, brain hemispheric balance, mind-body connectivity, brainwave regulation, regulation of all nervous systems, cranial nerve functionality, the health and well-being of implicit neural data, and the health and well-being of attachment systems. And addressing these 7 particulars opens the doors to ask new questions, leading to new answers to ignite healing unconditionally for any and all types of persons in any and all corners of the world experiencing any and all types of implicit health challenges.